So I started believing all of that, and the loneliness of it set in, the pressure of it all. So it put me in a really bad place. And one day I was praying, asking God to take away these like very draining thoughts that I was having. And then I turn around, like the moment that amen left my breath, and I'd have something playing in the background again. And it was the moment that he kind of broke through, was when I said that prayer. It's not like I hadn't prayed it before. I don't know what was special about this time, but he just like kind of hit something. And I was like, how can I ask him to take away all of my yucky feelings when I'm holding him at arm's length? I'm not giving him any space to work. I'm turning around as soon as I get done praying and filling my head up with something else. I'm not giving him anything, any space to work with, no quiet to talk to me in. So I wasn't putting in the work that I needed to make the breakthrough for myself. And I realized that I was just numbing myself to ease the thoughts. It wasn't productive. It wasn't productive noise like listening to a good sermon or like listening to uplifting Christian music. Because let me tell you, sometimes my playlist can get a little sad. I got a little sad moment, you know, but hey, I've done a whole lot better. One of my things was actually to go through my entire Spotify playlist and start cleaning out songs that I'm like, wow, this is probably not helping me. Yeah. So that is one thing I did. And what I had identified in myself as loneliness was really just a longing to be closer to God. So I actually have an excerpt from one of my journals at the time, and I said, overthinking anxiety can often overtake my brain and derail my life. That's why I constantly seek out distractions so I can drown out these thoughts. But I'm not really drowning them out, I'm just delaying dealing with them, and that isn't a healthy coping mechanism or the way I should be living with Christ. And that's true. By numbing my thoughts, I was just pushing away the problems and sabotaging myself more. And I was burying the problem instead of properly addressing it. Don't do that. From experience, that just makes it worse. And while all this was going on, it was about the time that we started doing the first of the year feast. So I was like, okay, well, this is a perfect time for me to get out of this terrible cycle that I'm stuck in. So I said, okay, God, I'm the one that has to put the work in here. So I'm going to get into the Word. I'm going to watch what I'm feeding myself. I'm going to keep reminding myself that you guide my path. And one of the verses that I used is, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose, which is Romans 8:28. And I said, I trust that you're going to guide me in the way that I should go. Because I also had a lot of questions about the direction of my future at this time. This was before I knew that I was going to come home or that I was going to go into the MLS program that I was in now. So I had a lot of questions. And I started being intentional more than I ever have in my entire life. There's something to be said about doing things with intention. Things started changing in my life. I started changing a whole lot more. I really rooted myself really deeply in God's word and love, that I reconnected with myself in a way that I had kind of been disconnected with in a little bit. And the best part of my apartment was actually my little walk-in closet that I ended up converting into like my prayer space. And it was the best thing to happen to me. If you do have a place anywhere in your house, it doesn't even have to be like a whole dedicated room. It can just be like a single wall or a little cubby or part of a cabinet, the back of your door. Like, it's literally the best thing ever. I went from reaching for all the noise that the internet could ever give me to actually craving the quiet space to be with my Creator in the prayer closet. So, and I practice being vulnerable. And let me tell you, being vulnerable is stinking hard, even if it is just by yourself in a closet, okay? But it's freeing. Like, it is so freeing. I started seeing myself in a different light. I started seeing people in a different light, situations in a different light. And I've always been Christian. I got saved when I was 4. So I was raised in church. I know what the Lord says about me. But somewhere along the way, I just let just everything kind of, all the distractions watered down what I had always been taught. And, you know, it's like a weird, terrible cycle sometimes in your head. So I'm working on breaking cycles. But I let all the thoughts in my head tell me more about who I was or what I should be doing than what I was letting God define me. So it defined the relationship that I had with myself, which really meant it defined all the relationships that I had built with others. And I say all of this, all of the testimony that I shared, because everything I say after this means absolutely nothing. Like cultivating relationships and deepening friendships means nothing if I didn't first emphasize that the importance of having your relationship with God above all else. Literally, God knows the desires of my heart, and He knew that if I didn't deal with all the doubts and the insecurities and the urge to rush through life, then because I think that I'm behind, that I would be the one to mess up for everything that I've ever hoped for. Which, you know, I had to clean up my mess. So He and I had to get together. That's the important part. You have to work with Him to fix my perspective before He can reach into all the other areas of my life. And one of those areas He's really honed in on was relationships. So when I say relationships, I mean like in every aspect of life, not a single particular one. So if I'm longing for deeper friendships, and I know this doesn't pertain, there's a lot of married people in here, but I'm also searching for a spouse, so I need to put in the work. I need to position myself to grow in preparation for what's needed of me spiritually and emotionally in all of those friendships and relationships. So I needed to stabilize my foundation that I had with God and then get a better relationship with myself too, because you have to do the work on yourself too, so I can have better relationships with others. So if you want better relationships, you got to have first a good relationship with God. No relationship that you can ever have will fill the want you have to be known or to be seen the way that God can. You can try your hardest to squeeze and push and shove into that gap anybody that you have in your life where the longing is, and you will always find that space is God-shaped.
That's so good. So true.
All of your relationships, whether they be with your family, your friends, boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, will benefit from you deepening your relationship with God first. Literally everything flows through Him. And once you're established with God, you find that your capacity within those relationships change. So in church, we talk a lot about surrounding yourself with the right people, which is really important because you do want those good voices speaking into your life. And I always think about the story of Jesus in Mark 5:39 through 40, when He goes to the synagogue leader's house whose daughter had just died. And it says, when they came to the home of the synagogue leader, Jesus saw a commotion, and with people crying and wailing loudly. He went in and said to them, "Why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead, but asleep." But they laughed at Him. And after He put them all out, He took the child's father, mother, and the disciples who were with Him and went in where the child was. I always think that those verses stick out to me because, first of all, they laugh at Him when He says they're not dead, they're just sleeping. So first of all, they were being negative about what He had already said. Jesus had already said she's just asleep, and they laughed. So, and to me, I find humor in the Bible. I don't know if you all do this or not. You read something a certain way, and you're like, that's just got a little humor in it. Like, they laughed at Him, and after He put them all out. Like, I can just see that. Like, you can just imagine the negativity in Him being like, no, get out. So, negativity has no place here, and neither should the people that you surround yourself with. I also think about in Luke 5:18 and 19, some men come carrying a paralyzed man on a mat and try to take him into the house to lay him before Jesus. And when they could not find a way to do this because of the crowd, they went up on the roof and lowered him on his mat through the tiles in the middle of the crowd right in front of Jesus. You need friends that are believing with you. You need friends whose faith can encourage and strengthen you. Those friends who want the best for you. And they're willing to put themselves in uncomfortable positions to help you and to help you grow and to see you prosper too. I mean, these people could have said, well, we tried. The crowd's too thick. But instead, one of his friends had the crazy idea to go up on the roof and lower him down. Like, could you imagine how they pitched that to the other friends? Like, we're going to climb up here on the roof and lower you down. I can't imagine how the paralyzed man felt. Like, he was the one on the map. So, But you need people in your life, friends who are going to like want the best for you. And we've used a lot of gardening analogies up here. So I plan on keeping with that because it seems to work pretty good. I don't know if you all know anything about this, but there's a practice in gardening called companion planting. And it's where you put specific plants together that will mutually benefit each other while growing. And they do that by helping in pollination, providing shelter for the other plant, improving soil quality, and pest control. For example, the scent of basil planted beside tomatoes can repel harmful pests. And then the shade from the tomato plants can help the basil leaves stay tender and improve the flavor of the leaves. So we can think of ourselves like plants. Have you planted yourself beside your companion plants? Have you put yourself next to the plants that are going to help you survive, the friends that are going to help you flourish, relationships that are actually going to uplift you? So when you think about your relationships anywhere in your life, you can ask these questions. Does the person help you reduce the bad in your life? Pest control. Do they build you up and help you grow, improve your soil health? Is their presence one where you find yourself able to rest in difficult periods of your life, protective shelter? It's a good thing to consider. We think a lot about planning ourselves, but, we're mutually beneficial. It's not a one-way street. Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up, but pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Ecclesiastes 4 and 9 and 10. If we found our companion plants, then that's good. That's a good thing. We want to find our companion plants. But if we're rushing through the garden, then we've missed the point of our relationships entirely. If you're running past all your companion plants, then you're not getting anything from that. Establishing relationships is great, and we talk about that often, but we tend to skip over how to cultivate those relationships in our lives. Remember, companion planting goes both ways. Plants, both of them, benefit from the relationship. It's not only evaluating what the person is bringing into your life, your friend or whoever it is bringing into your life, but it's what you're bringing into their life too that matters. One who has an unreliable friend soon comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Proverbs 18:24. I think that the narrative on friendship tends to stick around like you evaluating your friends, but you also should be evaluating yourself in the friendship too. We have to be practicing speaking life into our friends, speaking good things over our friends. It's easy to fall into like a sphere of negative thinking when you're with your friends sometimes. But we need to speak life over them. If they catch them saying something like, this is so goofy, but I was with my cousin, and they're like, I'm just going to die alone. I'm like, no, you're not, in Jesus' name. I'm praying for your spouse harder now. I'm like, I'm speaking good words over you. So, but gracious words are honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. Proverbs 16:24. Words have such power, y'all. Like, so much power. And if we have a good friend that's speaking into our life, or good relationships that are speaking into our lives, that makes a world of difference. It really does. We also must make space for others to find rest. The Bible does call us peacekeepers. It calls us to be hospitable to one another, welcoming each other into our homes, making time and space for people. And we talk about sowing, and our brains go to finances first. At least my brain does. I go to financials first. But we really can sow with many things. You can sow with your time. You can sow with your emotions, your energy into people. You can sow into people with good words and encouragement too. There's a quote from Lisa Turker's book, Uninvited, and it says, proximity and activity don't always equal connectivity.
That's true.
So I really like that quote because I think a lot of people have what they consider friends, the people that you see every day at work or when you're at a particular activity, but your friendship doesn't really extend past anything more. And how do you get to know somebody? By slowing down and taking the time to talk to them. And if you're going through the drive-thru, do y'all stop at the drive-thru ordering menu and you just drive right on by and go to the window and they should know what you want? So same thing with friendships. You can't go past the drive-thru menu. You kind of have to talk to somebody. You have to get to know them. Something I've been interested in lately is the friendships of the Bible. I think it's really interesting because there's so many good ones. And all of the friendships developed there happened because they spent a lot of time together. They didn't have social media. They didn't have a lot of things that we have, but they didn't have social media and a bunch of other distractions. You know, they spent time together. They carved out time to intentionally speak with one another, to have meals together, to spend visits in each other's homes and houses. And it was very intentional. They found devotion in one another, and they found connection through the same passions. They were rallied by the same goals. Like I think of, there's several like friendship duos I can think of, like Jonathan and David. That's one that always comes to my mind. Elijah and Elisha, you know, they were one. Jesus and all of his disciples, really. Ruth and Naomi. So I think there's a lot of things that we can learn about looking not only at the relationships in the Bible, but also the friendships in the Bible and how they're cultivated. And we live in a culture of rushing. We rush from one thing to the next all the time. And I don't mean just your day-to-day activities. I mean like we rush through life. Like we're always thinking about the next thing. Not the next, okay, well in the next hour I have to do this, but you're thinking, okay, next week I have to do this. And then the next week you're thinking, oh, well in 2 weeks I have to do this. And we just rush through life. We're just trying to get to one thing to the next without actually slowing down and enjoying life. And there are so many young adults out there who are rushing because they're scared they're behind. And I speak from experience because I felt like I was one of them. You're stressed and rushing to find the right career or the correct person to marry. You're stressed to get a house. You're stressed to start a family. And we're just rushing through all of our days to get to one goal, only to reset that goal as soon as we get there. I mean, a lot of people don't even take the time to celebrate the goal that they just met before starting immediately to work on the next one. So I also think, you know, when somebody says, oh, I had a slow morning, usually people respond with, oh, you're so lucky. So when did the act of doing something slow or slow living become such a luxury? I don't know. That's just a little food for thought. Because I don't believe that God ever intended for us or our brains to be moving so fast all the time. I really don't. Dwell in the shelter of the Almighty. Be still and know that I'm God. The Lord makes firm the steps of those who delight in him. All of these calls to action, dwell, be still, delight, implies the act of actually slowing down. So if in our relationship with our Creator we're asked to slow down, why would that be any different than the relationships we have with each other? To slow down, to make time, to talk, to come be with each other. You know, the rush culture that we have has really stripped away our ability to form and create relationships with each other. And we think that it's enhanced it, okay? You see all these people all the day, but have you actually spent time with them? Like, have you actually talked to them, And there's a lot of problems with people trying to get together. And I can think of 3 main ones. The first is time scarcity. Our careers keep us in physical locations for long periods of time. A lot of you have families that keep you in activities or in certain places for a certain amount of times. There's logistical friction. So coordinating schedules is hard. People are busy. Once again, rushing culture. People are busy. I have one friend that I literally have to schedule her 2 to 3 months ahead of time. And even then it's like, okay, you got 2 days to choose from, so good luck. So, and then there's like digital substitutions. So this is what I mean, like we think we have really good friendships because so-and-so commented on my post.
Right.
And they've commented on my post for 3 months now, so we're best friends. But then you see them in the grocery store and you walk right past them. Like, we think we have relationships, but we do not. Or, you know, it's so easy to do too. Like, I know, but digital connections are good. I'm not saying that they're not. Connecting with people that are far away or you need to get in touch. I'm not saying that like social media is bad, but there's a lot of shallow friendships when we could go so much deeper if we took the time to actually connect with each other. So this one's a little, I'm just being blunt here. you're never going to achieve the relationships that you want and crave with people if you're hiding behind all the distractions. You have to be intentional. You have to be vulnerable. You have to break down the walls. You can't hold people at arm's length. You have to let people in. You have to make space for them. And that's hard because, everybody loves a good mind-numbing scroll. But see, that's just another thing. You're just putting another distraction in front of you. And you might be thinking, well, that's not me. I have so many friends. And I don't even need this sermon right now. But you know what? You might be hiding behind distractions and not even realize that you're doing it. Because I certainly didn't until it all hit me at once and I realized, wow, I'm not in a great place. I mean, I would sit down and scroll after work, okay? Scroll for 5 minutes and then I'm just going to be honest, like 3 hours later. So, I mean, you do that and you're craving connection, but you're looking in the wrong places. So Hebrews 10:24 and 25, and let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some of us are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. I think that verse is really interesting because it says very specifically, and again, this was a time when they didn't have social media, they didn't have, of course, it was harder to live then, but not giving up on meeting each other as some of us are in the habit of doing. Well, we're still in the habit of doing that. We're still in the habit of not meeting with each other. And the act of meeting another person in person is totally different than when you're not in person. I think COVID taught a lot of us about that, having to be online. I think a lot of people realized that they missed talking to people. Even people who were introverts sometimes were like, dang, be nice to actually be in the presence of somebody else. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am with them. Matthew 18:2. That's a good verse. Praying. It's also just good because when there are 2 of you more together, think about the faith conversations you can have with people. And I think that's important too. You need good Christian friendships that can build you up. I'm not saying that you can't have friends that aren't Christians, because you can. But you need people that are going to be firm foundations in your life. Life is hard to go through alone. You may have your spouse and everything, but if you're a girl, get a good girlfriend. Guys need good guy friends. And if you want to see the harvest from relationships in your life, you have to sow into them. There's no other way to state that. If you want to see a return on your friendships, and I don't mean to make it sound like, oh, what can I get out of it? But like I said, two-way street. Your friend's also getting something out of it. You have to sow into them. Colossians 3:13-14. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you have a grievance against someone. And over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. This is a scary thing for some people. I've realized I've started having a lot more conversations with some of my friends about relationships and things that they feel like and their vulnerabilities, which I feel very blessed that people are receptive towards those conversations with me. And some of my friends say that that's the most difficult part of forming a relationship, is actually investing their time and everything into somebody. I had one friend who told me that investing their time, emotions, and energy into someone's not worth the risk because they can leave and all your work would be wasted. And that went for anybody. That went for friendships or romantic interests that they had, anybody. It wasn't worth it to them to invest their time into anybody. It's that's sad. I'm that's sad to think that nobody is worth the chance. But I don't believe that for a minute, because there's no amount of love or kindness or grace or mercy that is ever, ever, ever wasted on somebody. I don't ever want to fall into that place of thinking. You have a limitless supply when you're connected to the Father who continually fills up your cup. I can choose to love freely, to give out grace when I'm connected to the very source of all good. I think of 1 Corinthians 13:3, 1-3. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but I do not have love, I am only a resounding gong, or clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but I do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but I do not have love, I gain nothing. I mean, could you imagine going through your life just no love for anybody? Like, that's, I can't imagine that, and I can't imagine it because I've known God's love for as long as I can remember. You know, I've known, like, my mom's love too, but, you know, your parents' love is so different than your love that you feel from God. And I can't imagine not being able to pour out more of that for other people in my life, not being able to be a source that they can see that, to feel that. And now I say all of this, like, not in the context of abusive or manipulative relationships. You know, you should use good judgment, you know. You should love everybody and give grace and mercy and empathy and everything, but don't put yourself in bad situations, okay? Use your brain. Be smart about it. Some people can be like kudzu. I don't know if y'all know what kudzu is, the vine that ate the South. But they can, and I actually looked it up. They grow 1 foot per day. Now imagine planting kudzu in your companion plant garden, okay, people, 1 foot a day. And to actually get rid of it, you have to have a persistent, multi-year effort focused on just destroying the root crown. That's crazy. Don't let those people in your lives. Don't let them take over, okay? Because that's hard to get rid of. To cultivate and strengthen those friendships and relationships with people important in our lives, we all have to humble ourselves. We have to learn to actively listen, to take time to care and meet in person. We have to let people in, and we have to allow ourselves the chance to be vulnerable. And allowing ourselves to be vulnerable can be clumsy. It can be really embarrassing. Man, have I said some stuff before. But have you ever had a conversation with somebody that is so refreshing and relatable that it breathes new life into you? I mean, how scary is it to make any new friendship or relationship, but how exciting is it? Every relationship has the potential, and every person's created with a purpose. Isn't it amazing and how blessed we are that God has called us to be friends with each other, to love each other, to build lives with each other and alongside of each other? I think that's just crazy. Like, even from the beginning, God said it's not good for man to be alone. Community is essential, and I think that more people need to tap into that. The world's culture of rushing and social media and hyperfixation on our own lives has really severed the goodness of community. It's fragmented it. It's harder to pull people together. It's harder to get things up and running. It's hard to even meet with like your close friends or your close family sometimes. I think that there's something to be said about good biblical friendships that go beyond seeing each other at church. So, that being said, it's a source of strength that you don't even realize you can tap into when you're battling external stresses and internal turmoil. And right here in this room, we have a lot of wonderful Christian people in here. So if y'all aren't making friends, you've got a plentiful harvest right here. You've got some good people to sow your time into. And you don't have to carry your burdens alone. You have God and you have friends. You have relationship with people who want to care for you. And we're instructed to help carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ, Galatians 6:2. Prioritize developing relationships with people who love God, who love you, and most importantly, aren't afraid to tell you when you're being stupid, okay? And I mean this the truth. I mean, I'm telling you what, if you have some good friends that are like, hey now, you should probably rethink that. Or you tell them like a really good plan that you got going and they're like, how do we curb that? And it's like, at least you have friends that are going to be honest with you. Honesty goes a long ways. And it's good when you have like friendships that honesty can be accepted and not taken as offense. You also have to reposition your mindset that not everybody is trying to offend you.
Exactly.
I don't know if this is like a Southern thing too, but like it's like, oh my gosh, they said this in a really weird tone. They must hate me now. Because I know that I've been like that. Or it's like, did I say something in a really weird tone? I think they might think I hate them now. And it's like, no, okay, reposition yourself. I had to reframe my mind to think, nobody's maliciously saying anything. And so if anybody says that they have a problem with me, then I know they have a problem with me. Okay, but I'm not going to borrow grief from the future. So when we cultivate community with each other outside of these walls, we find that we're not so alone as our mind, the devil, wants us to think that we are. Because isolation can do a lot. I don't know if you all have ever seen the show Alone. It's a Discovery Channel show. They put random person out in the middle of the woods, no cameraman, they just do it on their own. I don't know if you've ever watched that show. Some people find God and other people go crazy. In the silence, in the isolation. The trees start talking to them, I'm not kidding. But other people find God. And, you know, you can go one or two ways in isolation. You can find God or you can go crazy.
It's a good word.
So surround yourself with people, connect. So connect with those people that you haven't spoke to in a while, or friends that you have already established. Your good friendships, reach out to them. Speak to the person that keeps coming out to your mind. You don't know. Maybe you're supposed to talk to them. I think we had a really good past 2 sermons about, you know, the seeds that you might plant. Reach out to that person. Again, use good judgment. Okay? So find your companion plants and remember to linger in the garden a little longer. And when I say linger in the garden longer, I mean like a good traditional Southern goodbye. And I know that y'all know what I'm talking about. It's like when you announce that you're leaving and you put on your jacket, and as you're putting on your jacket, you're still talking, and you stand there for like 10 minutes in your jacket and you're talking, and then you move to the door, and then you go to the porch, and then you move to the car, and you get in your car, but the conversation's still going. So you roll down your window, and you put in reverse, and you're still talking, and then before you leave, you wave. That's what I'm talking about, okay? So all of this to say, love people as they are. There are good connections and friendships out there. You're not alone. People also feel like they don't have friends. If you feel alone, I guarantee that there's people in this room right now that feel like they're alone, or that they don't have as many friends, or they think that they don't have many friends. But that's not the truth, okay? It's really not. No one's perfect, so love people on purpose as they figure out their lives. Because guess what? You're figuring out your life too. You're not perfect either. That's a hard pill to swallow. Live life together. Be brave and tell people what they mean to you. I'm telling you, if people would just say what they mean and like speak on how they feel from their heart, I just wonder what the world would be like. Good ways, you know. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say it. I'm not saying that kind of. But like if you be brave, tell people what they mean to you. Share a kind word. It's literally free. You can just say something as easy as, "Oh, I love your shirt." Simple conversations, you know. It doesn't have to be very much. And ask God to highlight those friendships in your life, those relationships that need strengthening. Just live genuinely and you'll start seeing life brighter. Cultivate those friendships, guys. Plenty of people right here to work with. But that's all I got for you.
Very, very good. Very